Hey guys, tonight the sea is black and endless, a sheet of cold iron stretching beneath a bruised sky. Wind slaps the water into silver shards, and your boat groans with every swell. The air tastes of salt and smoke, and the ropes creak like they're praying for mercy. Somewhere below deck, someone coughs, deep, wet, and resigned. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. You pull your cloak tighter, though it's already soaked through. The deck is slick beneath your boots, and every gust of wind stings your face like thrown sand. Around you, other men mutter to themselves, eyes fixed on the horizon, lips cracked white with salt. The smell of tar, sweat, and fear mix into something almost sacred. The ocean doesn't hate you, it just doesn't care. Tonight, you'll learn what it meant to live here, adrift between storms and superstition, where hunger hummed louder than the wind, and gods were as cruel as the waves. This is the story of why being a Viking sailor wasn't adventure at all, but misery disguised as glory. The world around you is water and wind. The sky stretches low and heavy, a grey lid pressed down on a restless sea. You hear the rhythmic slap of waves against the hull, each one a heartbeat you can't control. The air stings your cheeks, it smells of iron and rot, sharp enough to burn your throat when you breathe too deeply. That mattered because the North Sea wasn't scenery, it was an opponent that never slept. You learn quickly, neither can you. The ship rolls with every swell, a living creature groaning under your boots. The planks shift, the mast trembles, and the sail snaps like thunder overhead. Your world tilts constantly, balance becomes religion. That mattered because Viking longships weren't made for comfort. They were made for speed and sacrifice. You plant your feet wider, pretending the motion doesn't exhaust you, pretending you're built for this. The wind bites harder the farther north you sail. Salt crusts on your lips, your eyelashes freeze together, and your fingers stiffen around the oar. The air feels solid, thick with frost, and every inhale scratches your lungs. That mattered because the Vikings didn't fear the cold. They negotiated with it daily. You exhale slowly, watching your breath turn to mist, and wonder how anyone ever found courage in temperatures that kill. At night, the ocean changes color, glowing faintly beneath the stars. The water shimmers with ghostly green light, phosphorescence swirling where the oars break its surface. It looks divine until you realize it's alive. Tiny creatures burning themselves for beauty. That mattered because the sea always gave miracles with a warning label. You stare into the glow, half mesmerized, half nauseated by the movement below. You sleep when you can, curled beside the mast with your cloak, stiff from salt. The planks beneath you pulse with water, creaking like tired lungs. Someone snores, someone vomits, someone prays. You pretend not to hear either. That mattered because privacy at sea was fantasy. You learn to share silence instead of space. Dawn arrives slowly, spilling grey light over the deck. The sea looks calm now, almost kind, but the kindness feels fake, like a smile on a god's face. The men stir, stretch, spit, curse, and reach for their oars. The wood feels cold and alive, splintering under calloused hands. That mattered because rowing was rhythm, faith without prayer. You join them, matching their pace, your shoulders burning by the second pull. The waves hit harder as the tide shifts. Spray lashes your face, soaking your clothes through again. Your body stops shivering, not from warmth, but surrender. The sound of the sea becomes endless applause for your suffering. That mattered because misery here wasn't dramatic, it was routine. You row until you stop thinking, until movement becomes existence. A gull circles overhead, its cry sharp and lonely. It dives, skimming the water, then vanishes into mist. The men take it as a good sign. Birds mean land, or at least direction. You don't ask which matters more. That mattered because faith at sea was flexible. Whatever gave hope was true enough. You whisper a thank you to the empty air, just in case. As noon rises, the sun burns pale through thin clouds, turning everything silver and flat. Shadows disappear, and the sea feels endless again. You squint into the glare until your eyes water. That mattered because navigation wasn't maps. It was memory, stars, and trust in the man beside you. You stare at the horizon, pretending to recognize patterns that might save you. The air shifts suddenly, carrying the metallic smell of coming rain. The sea darkens like spilled ink. Someone mutters a curse. Another spits into the water for luck. You grip your oar tighter. That mattered because storms were stories you lived before you feared them. The first drop hits your cheek, cold, hard, inevitable. Lightning flashes far away, white veins across grey clouds. The men pause, eyes fixed upward, waiting for thunder. It arrives late, deep, and final. The ship shudders. You feel the sound travel through wood into bone. That mattered because even gods had terrible timing. You lower your head and keep rowing, as if movement might trick the sky into mercy. The rain comes heavy now, blinding and cold enough to hurt. It drums against your skull, turns the deck to a river, and erases the horizon. For a moment, everything disappears. The sea, the sky, even yourself. Only rhythm remains. That mattered because in Viking life, survival was music. Oar, breath, heart, repeat. You row until repetition becomes prayer, and the storm finally listens. When the sky clears, you see what the storm has done. The sea glitters cruelly under a false sun, calm now, pretending innocence. You taste blood in your mouth from biting down too hard against fear. Around you, men check their oars, their ropes, their fingers. No one counts aloud, but you know the silence means someone didn't survive the night. That mattered because loss at sea was as common as salt. You keep your eyes on the water, pretending not to notice the missing. The long ship rocks gently now, as if apologizing. Its planks creak in slow rhythm, wood swollen from the storm's beating. Every surface smells of pitch, sweat, and rot. The dragon head at the prow drips with seawater, staring forward without expression. That mattered because Viking ships were built as gods, not tools. You feel small beneath its carved gaze, as if the boat itself is judging your worth. You run your hand along the side, feeling the rough seams between boards. The tar sticks to your skin, black and bitter. Every joint holds the memory of hands that built it. Farmers turned, carpenters turned sailors. That mattered because every Viking ship was a family tree nailed together. You wipe the tar on your trousers, leaving stains that never wash out. Beneath the deck, water sloshes in shallow pools. The men bail it out with wooden buckets, each scoop slower than the last. The smell of wet wool and mold rises with the steam of their breath. Someone jokes weakly about swimming home. No one laughs. That mattered because humor here was a defense mechanism that drowned early. You smile anyway, out of habit. The sail, patched with animal hide and stitched with uneven pride, flaps weakly in the wind. It's dyed red, though time has turned it the color of dried blood. The ropes creak, frayed but faithful. You glance upward, wondering how something so fragile can carry so many lives. That mattered because Viking craftsmanship wasn't elegant, it was stubborn. You pat the mast like it's alive, because maybe it is. At the ship's center lies the cargo, barrels of fish, weapons wrapped in cloth, furs packed tight. The smell is thick and sour, but it's wealth, each object a promise of trade, of survival, of home. That mattered because raiding was romanticized. Reality was logistics. You adjust a barrel that's come loose, muttering a curse at its disobedience. A man near the bow sharpens his axe, the rasping sound cutting through the calm. The blade glints, reflecting the sea like a tiny mirror. He's not preparing for battle. He's preparing for boredom. That mattered because idleness was more dangerous than storms. You watch him work, mesmerized by the rhythm of survival disguised as maintenance. Further down, another man repairs a rope, weaving fibers together with calloused fingers. His hands move without thought, guided by repetition and necessity. The rope hums softly as he tightens it, the sound oddly comforting. That mattered because creation here was indistinguishable from desperation. You feel something settle in your chest, an uneasy calm that feels like acceptance. The ship tilts suddenly, the wood groaning again, the wind picks up, playful this time, the sail billows, snapping loud enough to wake the gulls above. The men look up, half nervous, half grateful. That mattered because motion meant purpose. You grab your oar again, the wood rough beneath your hands, and fall back into rhythm. Saltwater seeps through the cracks, splashing your legs. You ignore it. The sea is inside the boat now, as it always will be. You bail when told, you row when ordered, you rest when exhaustion wins. That mattered because obedience at sea wasn't discipline, it was survival strategy. You stop fighting the ocean's rhythm and start mimicking it. By nightfall, the sky glows purple and the horizon disappears again. The ship creaks like an old throat clearing itself. You lie back against the deck, feeling the vibration of water against wood. Somewhere beneath you, the ocean dreams of taking you back. That mattered because every Viking sailor knew the sea didn't kill, it reclaimed. You stare upward, too tired to fear it anymore. When you finally drift into sleep, it feels like falling. The ship rocks, the water murmurs, and the stars blink slowly overhead. Your last thought before darkness is that the sea doesn't end, it just changes shape. That mattered because misery, like the ocean, eventually becomes lullaby. You exhale, and the night swallows the sound. Morning comes with the smell of fish, old, salted, and offended by sunlight. You wake to the sound of chewing, the rhythmic grind of desperate jaws. A man beside you tears at a strip of dried herring, his teeth working like machinery. He offers you a piece. It's hard as bone and twice as tasteless. That mattered because Viking rations weren't made for pleasure, they were made for longevity. You chew until your jaw aches, pretending it's food instead of endurance. The salt burns your tongue, rough against cracked lips. You wash it down with ale that tastes like vinegar and regret. It's warm, thick, and slightly sour, but it keeps your stomach quiet for another hour. That mattered because water at sea spoiled quickly. Ale was both beverage and bacteria repellent. You drink it slow, convincing yourself the bitterness means you're stronger for it. At noon, someone passes around barley bread, dense, grey, slightly damp from the fog. It's heavy enough to double as a weapon. You bite in, feeling grains grind between your teeth like sand. The flavor is faintly smoky, faintly miserable. That mattered because every crumb was rationed with prayer. You take your time eating, not from manners, but because you fear running out too soon. Once a week, if luck or pillage favored the crew, there'd be dried meat or butter scraped from a wooden bowl. It spread unevenly, clinging to the bread in patches like mercy rationed by the gods. The men joked about feasting like kings, though no king would touch this meal. That mattered because humor was seasoning here. You laugh too, because not laughing means remembering what hunger really feels like. Fish oil lamps flicker weakly as evening settles. The smell of burning fat clings to everything: clothes, hair, even dreams. You eat another strip of fish, softer this time, soaked in ale to fool your teeth. The men around you are quiet, chewing in unison, each lost in thought. That mattered because silence after food felt almost holy. You let it linger, the sound of mast ropes creaking like distant prayer beads. Some nights, the crew caught fresh fish with crude lines over the side. The excitement was childish, laughter, shouting, even applause for the ocean's rare generosity. The catch would be gutted, roasted over an iron pot, and devoured before the scales cooled. That mattered because freshness was myth at sea. You eat greedily, burning your tongue, grateful anyway. One man pours a few drops of ale overboard before eating, murmuring to Aegir, the god of the sea. You follow his gaze toward the dark waves. The ocean doesn't respond. That mattered because faith was transaction here, offering before appetite. You murmur your own thanks, quiet enough that no one hears you praying to practicality. When storms ruined the food stores, hunger turned everyone inward. The bread molded, the fish softened, and the smell of decay crept into everything. The men scraped green from their meals and ate anyway. That mattered because starvation didn't arrive dramatically. It crept in through small compromises. You chew mold, not hope, and pretend it's flavor. Your stomach cramps through the night. The air feels heavier with every wave. Somewhere, someone retches quietly over the side. The sound is rhythmic, almost gentle. You close your eyes and swallow hard. That mattered because sickness and hunger spoke the same language. You roll over, pressing your cheek against the damp wood, letting the boat rock you through the ache. By morning, the sea looks clearer, the wind softer. You eat again, same bread, same fish, same lies told kindly to yourself. You don't resent it anymore. That mattered because survival teaches you to stop negotiating. You eat because the alternative requires too much imagination. The men begin a chant to keep time while rowing, low, steady, almost musical. Their voices merge into something ancient, primal. You hum along without words. That mattered because rhythm digests despair better than reason. You feel hunger fade into motion, replaced by something quieter, acceptance disguised as faith. When the stars appear, someone tosses a fishbone into the water. For the next catch, he says, smiling faintly, you nod. The sea takes it without comment. That mattered because sacrifice here didn't need witnesses, it just needed consistency. You watch the ripples fade and feel your stomach settle, not full, but calm. The wind never stops. It hums through the rigging, slips under your cloak, and settles in your bones. Your breath fogs in front of you, curling like smoke before vanishing into grey. The cold feels personal, like an enemy that's learned your name. That mattered because the North didn't attack, it infiltrated. You rub your hands together until they sting, pretending friction equals warmth. Your clothes are layers of wool and animal skin, stiff with salt and stiffened by nights of damp sleep. The fur smells of smoke, fish, and the ghosts of animals that once owned it. Each layer is heavy, but never enough. That mattered because insulation on a Viking ship wasn't technology, it was endurance in fabric form. You shift beneath the weight, feeling warmth as a rumor, not a guarantee. When frost gathers on the deck, it glitters beautifully, tiny crystals catching the moonlight like jewels. The men barely notice. They stomp their boots, mutter curses, and scrape ice from ropes with the backs of their knives. That mattered because beauty loses its audience when everyone's busy surviving. You pause to look anyway, letting the sparkle remind you the world still tries to be kind. Nights are worst. The cold grows patient, waiting for your body to surrender. Your fingers go numb, your nose burns, your teeth ache. You curl tighter, pulling your cloak to your chin. The man beside you shivers too. Neither of you mention it. That mattered because weakness spoken aloud became contagious. You choose silence, letting the wind finish the conversation. Fires on board are rare, too risky, too greedy for air. Instead, men huddle close, sharing heat through proximity. Shoulders press, knees touch, breath mingles. No one calls it intimacy, they call it strategy. That mattered because comfort here never needed language. You close your eyes, letting another man's warmth pretend to be your own. When snow begins to fall, it arrives sideways, driven by wind. The flakes sting, melt, freeze again. The ship's deck turns white, slippery, sacred. You taste a flake on your tongue. It's sharp, metallic, real. That mattered because purity doesn't last long in salt water. You smile faintly before the wind steals the feeling. By morning, ice coats the ropes, the oars, even the men's beards. They chip it away with dull blades, laughing about it as if defiance itself could thaw them. One man snaps his oar against the edge of the ice, swearing by Thor's hammer. That mattered because rage was the only thing that generated heat. You join the laughter, though your lips barely move. Your skin cracks in thin lines, red against pale. Salt water stings the wounds, teaching humility faster than religion ever could. You press your hands together and blow warm breath across them. The relief lasts seconds, but it's enough. That mattered because hope here measured itself in exhalations, not hours. You repeat the motion again and again until it becomes a rhythm. The captain yells orders through the wind, his voice hoarse, his beard thick with frost. He looks like a god sculpted from ice, immortal and miserable. You obey automatically, not because of respect, but because routine feels safer than thought. That mattered because authority at sea was a blanket, thin but better than nothing. You pull it tighter around your obedience. As night returns, the sky glows faintly green, northern lights flickering across the horizon. The men fall silent, watching. The lights ripple, smooth and alive, as if the gods themselves were stretching after sleep. That mattered because even misery gets jealous of beauty. You whisper a curse under your breath for how lovely it all is. The cold deepens until even your breath feels heavy, your ribs tight with frost. You stop fighting it. The numbness turns warm, deceptive, almost kind. That mattered because surrender sometimes feels like peace. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to exist slower. When dawn comes, you're still alive. Barely. but enough. The ice on your beard cracks as you smile weakly. Around you, men groan awake, breathing steam into the morning. That mattered because surviving the night counts as victory here. You stretch, joints stiff and proud, and whisper thanks to a sun that doesn't answer. The morning begins with a cough, wet, hollow, contagious by sound alone. You hear it before you see who it belongs to, echoing between the ribs of the ship like a drumbeat of warning. The air feels thick, warmer than usual, heavy with breath. You try not to notice how close everyone sleeps, how little space there is between lungs and fate. That mattered because disease on a Viking ship wasn't an invader, it was a passenger. You swallow hard, pretending your throat doesn't itch. The smell gives it away before the fever does. A sour, sweet rot, like old milk and salt, lingers beneath the deck. Someone has vomited again, too weak to move. The flies come quick, unbothered by the cold. You turn your head and breathe through your sleeve. That mattered because even decay adapts at sea. You find a grim admiration in that, wondering why resilience so often chooses the wrong side. When fever takes a man, it doesn't announce itself, it steals quietly. His skin burns, his eyes glaze, and by the time he stops rowing, everyone already knows. The crew moves him to the side, tucking his cloak around him like a child being punished with rest. No one says much. That mattered because grief here wastes energy. You row harder, as if speed might outrun contagion. A few of the men whisper about sea spirit, revenants from drowned voyages spreading illness through touch. One spits into the water after every sneeze, a tiny ritual of defiance. Another mutters to Thor under his breath, promising to sacrifice a goat if everyone survives. That mattered because superstition was their only form of medicine. You pretend not to listen, though part of you hopes they're right. The sick man stops breathing before dawn. The silence around him is sharper than the wind. The captain orders his body wrapped in sailcloth, tied with rope, and slid into the water. No prayers, no tears. Just the splash. The ripples widen, fade, and are gone. That mattered because the sea accepts payment in flesh. You look away, pretending the sound of the waves isn't an answer. By the next day, another cough begins, different voice, same rhythm. The men start sleeping farther apart, though farther still means shoulder to shoulder. The smell of sweat and sickness mixes with tar and fear. Someone sneezes, and a dozen heads turn. That mattered because trust weakens faster than muscle. You wrap your cloak tighter, as if fabric could filter death. Food loses its appeal. Even the ale tastes wrong, metallic and bitter. You sip anyway, forcing yourself to swallow. The liquid burns, and you call that medicine. That mattered because cure and comfort were synonyms here. You lie to yourself with conviction, the same way everyone else does. At night, you dream of home, the smell of pine smoke, the sound of rain against a roof that doesn't move. You wake to salt spray and coughing. For a moment, you forget which world is real. That mattered because illness blurs the border between memory and hallucination. You close your eyes again, deciding the dream was healthier. When the fever reaches the captain, no one speaks of it. He hides it well, standing tall, voice steady, but his eyes shine too bright. His hands tremble when he grips the oar. That mattered because leadership at sea meant pretending to be immortal. You watch him quietly, admiration mixed with dread. By the seventh day, the ship feels quieter. slower. Conversations fade, laughter disappears. The only sounds left are oars, wind, and the occasional ragged cough. You've stopped checking who makes it. That mattered because familiarity breeds numbness faster than compassion. You just keep rowing. When the fever finally leaves, it doesn't say goodbye. One morning, the air feels lighter, the smell less sharp. The men sit up, dazed, suspicious of the stillness. The dead are gone. The living remain. That mattered because recovery here feels like guilt. You whisper, thanks to nothing, careful not to sound too relieved. You look at the empty spaces where friends once sat, the rope coils untouched. The sea glimmers cold and distant, pretending innocence again. That mattered because the ocean doesn't mourn, it recycles. You close your eyes, breathing in salt and ghosts, and feel the wind shift, carrying the next story. Silence is dangerous at sea. Too much of it, and the mind starts inventing voices in the wind. So the men fill the emptiness with sound, chants, songs, nonsense rhymes passed down from voyages too long remembered. Their voices rise and fall with the oars, rhythmic and raw. That mattered because repetition is sanity disguised as tradition. You hum along, letting the sound hold your thoughts together. Before dawn, someone always carves runes into the mast, a few small symbols scratched with a knife tip. They're meant to please Njord, god of the sea, or maybe just to give purpose to nervous hands. The wood bears hundreds of marks already, layered like old prayers. That mattered because belief doesn't need to work to be worth doing. You touch the carvings once, feeling grooves worn smooth by calloused hope. Every evening, the crew tosses a handful of salt into the water, a symbolic offering for safe passage. It feels absurd, feeding the ocean its own food, but they do it faithfully. Some whisper blessings, others just stare into the dark, waiting for a sign. That mattered because control, even imagined, is enough to stay sane. You throw your pinch too, pretending the splash means protection. The youngest sailor tells stories after dusk, tales of sea monsters big enough to swallow islands, of whales mistaken for gods, of waves shaped like women luring men to drown. His voice trembles but never stops. The others listen, half mocking, half enchanted. That mattered because fear sounds smaller when turned into folklore. You smile, knowing the stories are lies that keep truth manageable. One man sharpens his knife before sleeping, every night without fail. Not because he expects battle, but because ritual feels safer than trust. The scrape of metal on stone is steady, almost soothing. That mattered because maintenance is meditation in disguise. You watch the sparks flicker and fade, thinking how even small fire feels holy here. Another man prays facing north, whispering to his ancestors before sleep. He doesn't kneel, he just bows his head slightly, murmuring into the wind. No one interrupts him. That mattered because privacy, even imagined, is priceless in a crowd of 40 men. You close your eyes too, not praying, but listening for the comfort in his rhythm. Some carve small charms from bone, a bird, a wave, a face with no mouth. They hang them from belts or tuck them into boots. The carvings aren't pretty, but they're personal. That mattered because beauty loses to meaning in survival's hierarchy. You run your thumb along one charm, wondering if it absorbs or repels despair. When the fog thickens and direction disappears, the men sit still, waiting. No one rows, no one speaks. They call it the pause. The world narrows to sound and heartbeat. After a while, someone starts a low hum, and others join. That mattered because sound replaces sight when hope wears thin. You join in, your voice trembling at first, then finding the note. During calm nights, when stars finally appear, they name constellations aloud, not the ones scholars would recognize, but ones they invented. The whale, the axe, the fallen shield. They laugh quietly, proud of their private sky. That mattered because ownership of the heavens gave meaning to endless water. You tilt your head back, memorizing their imagined stars. Once a week, the crew pretends to feast, a ritual without food. They sit in a circle, passing invisible cups, toasting victories that never happened. The laughter sounds real enough to trick the sea into mercy. That mattered because pretending joy still warms the blood. You raise your empty hand too, smiling into the wind. As dawn approaches, the captain hums a low tune no one recognizes. The men follow, voices uneven but united. The sound travels across the water, a fragile bridge between isolation and belonging. That mattered because connection doesn't need conversation. You hum until the sun rises, turning misery into music. When silence returns, it feels different, earned, not imposed. The sea sighs back like a tired friend. You sit quietly, tracing the runes on the mast, and realize that faith, madness, and endurance all speak the same language. That mattered because surviving isn't noble, it's repetitive. You close your eyes, feeling the boat breathe with you, ready for the next wave. The first sign isn't thunder, it's silence. The wind stops, the sail hangs limp, and even the gulls vanish. You taste the air. It's metallic, sour, too heavy to breathe. The sea holds its breath, waiting. Then the horizon folds inward, grey, swallowing grey. That mattered because storms at sea never arrive, they ambush. You tighten your grip on the oar, suddenly aware of how small wood feels against eternity. Lightning flashes sideways, white veins tearing across a black sky. The light blinds you, the sound arrives late, like the gods clearing their throats. Rain follows, thick, needle-sharp, punishing. It slaps your face, soaks your skin, fills your ears with the hiss of drowning air. That mattered because the Vikings feared nothing except stillness. You row harder because motion at least feels like choice. Waves rise taller than roofs, curling in slow motion before crashing with the weight of mountains. The ship leaps, groans, crashes back down. Water floods the deck, dragging ropes and hope toward the edge. Someone screams, a short sound, cut off. That mattered because the ocean doesn't shout, it edits. You taste blood and salt and can't tell which came first. The sail tears. The mast bends. Men cling to whatever their hands remember. One prays to Odin, another curses him. Both are ignored. The wind howls through the rigging like laughter. That mattered because faith is louder than reason, only until the first crack of timber. You close your eyes, not in prayer, but surrender. For hours, or minutes, or centuries, the ship becomes an instrument of chaos. You pull, bail, shout, obey, disobey, all at once. Lightning flashes again, illuminating faces streaked with salt and terror. They look carved from bone, ancient already. That mattered because storms carve portraits faster than time. You keep moving until movement stops meaning anything. When it finally passes, the world looks scrubbed raw. The sky is pale, the water flat, the air too clean. You can't tell if the silence feels holy or suspicious. Around you, the men stare at nothing, their eyes emptied by awe. That mattered because survival costs clarity. You breathe once, twice, tasting the difference between life and leftover. One man laughs suddenly, a short, cracked sound. Another joins him. Soon the whole crew is laughing, hysterical, grateful, furious. The ocean glitters, pretending innocence again. That mattered because humor is grief that survived the storm. You laugh too, salt stinging your teeth until it almost sounds like music. You bail the remaining water from the hull, each scoop rhythmic, meditative. The sea returns to rhythm, gentle, deceitful. The clouds thin, sunlight piercing through like apology. That mattered because peace, after chaos, always feels unearned. You let it anyway, watching light tremble across the waves like forgiveness learning how to walk. The captain wipes his face, beard dripping, eyes red. He mutters something about Odin's temper, then sits quietly, staring west. No one answers. That mattered because gods here aren't blamed. They're endured. You look at him and think he looks more mortal than ever. As the sun sets, the horizon glows faintly pink, the sea smooth as glass. You realize you've never seen calm without suspicion. That mattered because serenity is just the eye of the next memory. You close your eyes, the rocking gentle now, and let exhaustion masquerade as gratitude. When you finally sleep, thunder still echoes behind your eyelids, soft as breath. The ocean hums a slow lullaby, each wave erasing another scream. That mattered because storms never really leave, they just whisper quieter. You drift off, the taste of rain still on your tongue. At dawn, someone shouts, "Land!" and every head rises like resurrection. You stumble to your feet, heart pounding. There it is, a dark line on the horizon, firm, solid, promising. The men cheer weakly, voices cracking from disbelief. That mattered because hope here needs proof, no matter how far away. You stare until your eyes sting. Hours pass, and the line grows clearer. Trees, hills, smoke, maybe. The smell of earth reaches you, faint and foreign after weeks of salt. You imagine grass underfoot, a fire that doesn't move, sleep without rocking. That mattered because the body remembers stability like a lost language. You inhale greedily as if scent alone could feed you, but as the ship draws closer, the land shifts. The hills melt into mist, the trees into clouds. The outline fades, replaced by shimmering light over water. Someone curses, another crosses himself, mixing gods for safety. That mattered because illusions at sea aren't magic. They're dehydration with good timing. You blink hard, but the land refuses to stay. The captain squints, expression unreadable. "We'll keep rowing," he says quietly, though everyone knows he's lying to himself. The men obey anyway, oars dipping into water like sighs. That mattered because obedience survives longer than belief. You row too because what else is left to do? By midday, the mirage is gone completely. Only the same horizon remains, flat, infinite, cruel. The laughter that follows isn't cruel, it's resigned. One man claps another on the shoulder. "Good joke, eh?" he says. That mattered because humor repairs what truth breaks. You laugh until your ribs ache, and then it stops hurting. The sky turns colorless again, clouds stretching thin and mean. The sea is glassy, almost still, reflecting the disappointment too perfectly. You trail your fingers through the water. It's warm, almost pleasant. That mattered because beauty here feels mocking, You pull your hand back, not wanting to like it. Later, a fog drifts in, soft and silent. Visibility shrinks to the length of your arm. The air feels damp, woolen, intimate. The men whisper as if the fog can hear them. One says he feels watched. Another claims he sees shapes in the mist. That mattered because absence breeds imagination faster than hunger. You stare into grey and almost believe him. A bird lands on the mast, black feathers glistening with moisture. It tilts its head, unbothered by human awe. A sign, someone whispers. But of what? No one agrees. That mattered because symbols only need believers, not definitions. You watch it fly away, its wings slicing through fog like punctuation. When night falls, the fog thickens instead of lifting. The ship feels like it's floating inside a cloud. You can't tell up from down, sea from sky. The stars are gone, the world erased. That mattered because direction depends on contrast, and now there's none. You hold your breath, afraid of becoming invisible. Then, faintly, land reveals itself again, a darker grey within grey. No one celebrates this time. They just nod, quietly relieved or quietly fooled. That mattered because the human heart will always choose mirage over void. You close your eyes, whispering a small thank you to whatever version of land this is. The next morning, there's nothing there. Only the same horizon, eternal and unchanged. The men row without speaking, the sea whispering its cruelest truth. That stillness can be worse than storms. That mattered because endurance often wears hope as camouflage. You breathe salt, blink tears, and keep rowing toward nowhere. By the 5th week, hunger stops sounding like emptiness. It starts sounding like static. Your stomach growls less now, too tired for performance. Every movement feels slower, thicker, like the air has turned to syrup. The men move quietly, faces hollowed by days of chewing on nothing. That mattered because starvation doesn't hurt after a while, it sedates. You touch your ribs and realize they're sharper than your knife. The bread ran out first, then the fish, then the jokes. Someone found a crust of something under the deck and gnawed it without asking what it used to be. Another man boiled strips of rope in seawater until they softened like noodles. That mattered because desperation makes innovation look ridiculous. You pretend to laugh at him, though part of you considers asking for a bite. When the wind dies, the silence amplifies every sound, the creak of the mast, the shuffle of boots, the dry click of a throat swallowing air. The sea glitters under a motionless sun, beautiful in its cruelty. Sweat burns your cracked lips, and you can't tell if the salt you taste is ocean or body. That mattered because thirst always wins before hunger does. You dream of rivers, of snow, of anything that melts. A man collapses mid-row. His oar slides from his hands, drifting off with indifference. The others don't stop. The rhythm continues. Someone mutters that he's sleeping, though everyone knows he's not. That mattered because denial conserves energy better than grief. You look away, rowing in sync with ghosts. At night, someone talks about home, a fire, stew, thick with onions, bread baked by his wife. The way he describes it makes you angry because you can smell it too. The memory is vivid enough to taste. That mattered because the mind feeds when the body can't. You close your eyes and chew the thought until it loses flavor. On the 6th night, a barrel of salted fish breaks loose. The smell fills the air. Rot, oil, miracle. Men dive for it like animals, hands clawing, eyes wild. The first bite burns your tongue, too salty to swallow, but you do anyway. That mattered because survival doesn't wait for manners. You gag, laugh, cry, and eat more. The next morning, guilt replaces gratitude. The fish sits in your stomach like lead. Some men are sick, hunched over the side, whispering apologies to the sea. Others sleep deeply, dangerously. That mattered because relief, at sea, is never free. You lie still, hand over your belly, hoping your heartbeat stays obedient. Days blend. Your body feels lighter, not from health, but surrender. Hunger becomes background noise, the same tone as the waves. You stop noticing it unless someone else moans too loudly. That mattered because misery likes chorus, not solo. You hum softly, not sure if you're comforting them or yourself. A seagull lands near the mast, tilting its head, its feathers shine in the weak sunlight, and its eyes look unbothered. Every man watches it without blinking. No one says it aloud, but you all think the same thing. That mattered because hunger erases morality before reason. The bird flies off, saving everyone from a decision they'd regret only in heaven. You dream of meat, warm, dripping, endless. When you wake, your mouth hurts from biting your own tongue. The taste of blood is strangely satisfying. That mattered because the line between craving and madness isn't drawn. It dissolves. You laugh quietly, ashamed, and relieved. By the time rain finally comes, it feels like mercy. You open your mouth, catching droplets on your tongue, gulping like an animal. The water is cold, metallic, pure. That mattered because hunger destroys dignity, but thirst destroys identity. You tilt your head back, rain mixing with tears, and let both fall freely. When it ends, the world feels reset, though nothing's changed. The men look cleaner, calmer, maybe even hopeful. That mattered because renewal doesn't require improvement, just interruption. You lie back, belly empty but spirit full enough to row again. It begins at dusk, when the air thickens and the water flattens into glass. The sun bleeds red across the horizon, painting the sea like a wound. You hear whispers, soft at first, almost like the sigh of ropes. Then clearer, words, laughter, maybe. The others hear it too. You can tell by how no one moves. That mattered because silence is agreement. You hold your breath, waiting for the sea to finish speaking. The sound rises, a chorus of overlapping voices, low and melodic. They don't come from the wind or the men, they come from below. Each wave hums with sound, as if the ocean is rehearsing a song it once forgot. That mattered because loneliness eventually makes anything conversational. You lean closer, pretending curiosity instead of fear. Someone crosses himself. Another mutters to Odin. One man swears it's the drowned, singing from beneath the hull. They're telling us to follow, he whispers. You laugh, dryly, though the hair on your arm stands up. That mattered because superstition feels logical when the impossible starts making sense. You whisper back, just to be polite. The water glows faintly, phosphorescent blue, swirling under the surface. Shapes move beneath, too big for fish, too fluid for certainty. You watch them twist, their glow pulsing with rhythm. One breaks the surface briefly, a slick curve, smooth as glass, gone before your eyes can identify it. That mattered because belief thrives where evidence refuses to help. You step back, breath sharp. The captain orders silence, but the voices grow louder, laughing, coaxing. The sound vibrates through the hull, deep enough to feel in your ribs. You glance over the edge, and the water stares back, light, shimmering like eyes. That mattered because staring at the sea too long teaches it your name. You close your eyes and look inward instead. Then the singing changes. It turns softer, almost human, the melody unbearably sad. Some men weep without knowing why, others lean closer, hands gripping the rail as if drawn by gravity. You pull one back by the collar, he snarls like a child denied candy. That mattered because grief and seduction often share a voice. You hold him until the song fades. When the water stills again, it feels heavier, thicker. The glow disappears. The sea looks ordinary, insultingly calm. No one speaks. The silence afterward is worse than the sound. That mattered because awe demands aftermath. You sit down, shaking slightly, pretending it's from cold. Later that night, a man jumps. You hear the splash before you understand the scream. Lanterns flare, ropes fly, orders echo, but he's gone. The sea closes instantly, smooth as deceit. That mattered because no one wins tug-of-war with the abyss. You stare at the spot, waiting for bubbles, for regret. None come. The next morning, the men are quieter than ever. No one mentions what they heard, no one questions what they saw. The sea ripples softly, innocent again. That mattered because disbelief is the final form of faith. You grip your oar tighter, rowing toward the sunrise like it might forgive you. By evening, the wind returns, breaking the spell. Waves slap the hull in steady rhythm, a sound almost like applause. You take it as closure, though the sea never promised any. That mattered because every miracle, even the sinister ones, eventually gets demoted to story. You whisper thank you anyway, unsure if it's prayer or sarcasm. When night falls, you listen again, half afraid, half hopeful. Nothing answers, not even the wind. You smile faintly. That mattered because sometimes silence is mercy. You close your eyes, letting the dark sway you toward sleep, and imagine the ocean humming you to rest. The wind shifts at dawn, carrying a strange stillness. You wake to find the sea glass flat, the sky pale and empty. The air tastes different, thinner, colder, hollow. The men whisper that the gods have turned their backs. No gulls circle, no fish surface. Even the ropes hang silent, refusing to sway. That mattered because belief feeds on movement, and stillness starves it. You pull your cloak tighter, feeling watched by absence. Someone begins muttering prayers, half to Odin, half to anyone still listening. The words come out broken, repeated, rearranged. He's not invoking, he's negotiating. Just a sign, he whispers. Any sign. The horizon stays blank. That mattered because gods are worse than cruel when they're quiet. You nod anyway, pretending you agree with silence. At midday, the captain sets a small wooden idol near the mast, a carving of Thor, arm raised, hammer mid-swing. He smears it with fish oil, a makeshift offering. The smell turns rancid fast. The men watch, reverent but exhausted. That mattered because faith at sea rots faster than fish. You bow your head more out of habit than hope. The day drags. The sun doesn't move, it hovers, swollen and pale, like an eye refusing to blink. The crew stops talking. You can feel every heartbeat on the ship, every shift of plank against water. That mattered because silence at sea sounds louder than thunder. You whisper to yourself just to confirm you still exist. By nightfall, the stars return, but strange, rearranged, as if someone shuffled the sky. The familiar constellations are gone. The gods have sailed elsewhere, one man mutters. Another laughs, too loud, too long. That mattered because madness often begins with cosmic misprints. You look up and pretend you don't notice the difference. In the middle of the night, lightning flashes far away, no thunder, no storm, just brief light over empty sea. The men freeze, watching the horizon as if the sky might explain itself. One falls to his knees. Another covers his face. The captain just stares, mouth open. That mattered because awe and fear use the same muscles. You whisper, "We're not alone, though you're not sure it's comfort." The next morning, the idol of Thor is gone. Only an oily stain remains where it stood. The captain claims the sea took it as tribute. The men nod, but their faces twist into suspicion. A few whisper about betrayal. That mattered because missing gods make excellent scapegoats. You look down at the dark patch on the deck and think it looks too much like blood. Later that day, a storm cloud forms without wind, hovering low and silent. It doesn't move closer, it just watches. The air under it hums softly, like deep breath through hollow bone. One man bows his head to it, murmuring a hymn. Another spits in defiance. That mattered because reverence and rebellion share the same gestures. You just keep rowing, eyes lowered. When the cloud finally bursts, it rains salt. Not water, but crystals that sting the skin and leave white scars. The men cry out, laughing and swearing all at once. The deck glitters under the strange snowfall. That mattered because miracles always arrive slightly miscalibrated. You lick one crystal, taste pure brine, and grin despite yourself. As the rain fades, the sea turns black again, smoother than oil. The reflection of the stars stretches across it like veins of fire. You see your face among them, tired, thinner, almost sacred. That mattered because survival begins to look holy when no one else achieves it. You breathe in the metallic air, realizing you've stopped expecting gods entirely. By dawn, the men move slower, speaking softer, their eyes hollowed by belief gone stale. The captain stares at the horizon as if expecting apology. None comes. That mattered because silence hardens into reality when repeated. You accept it, quietly, and row toward whatever myth forgets next. That night, as you drift into sleep, you dream of Odin, blindfolded, barefoot, shivering like a mortal. He says nothing, just watches you. That mattered because even gods get lost at sea. You wake trembling, unsure who should be praying to whom. It starts with whispers, soft as cloth folding. Men talk in pairs now, backs turned, voices low. You pretend not to notice, but tension spreads like mold. Quiet, patient, inevitable. The captain stands apart, staring west, pretending deafness. That mattered because authority erodes faster than morale. You row harder, hoping noise will drown suspicion. By midday, someone refuses an order, a simple thing, pulling rope, tying sail. But the silence that follows makes it monumental. The captain glares. The man stares back. No shouting, no strike, just a held gaze that lasts too long. That mattered because rebellion rarely starts with action. It starts with fatigue. You feel the shift, heavy as a wave. The next meal is wordless. Everyone chews slowly, watching everyone else. Even the gulls stay away. The air tastes metallic, charged. You notice knives lying closer to hands, eyes darting toward the captain's shadow. That mattered because violence rehearses itself before debut. You keep your head down, pretending to be furniture. When the argument finally erupts, it's almost gentle, a disagreement over direction, over whether the gods have cursed the ship or the captain has. Voices rise, then break. The captain's tone sharpens, the crew's fractures. That mattered because anger at sea multiplies faster than fish. You grip your oar like a weapon you'll regret using. One man lunges not to strike, but to shout closer. The captain shoves him back. Another steps in, then another, and suddenly the deck is full of movement that looks like chaos but smells like cowardice. The sea watches quietly, waiting. That mattered because mutiny doesn't need blood, just momentum. You hold your breath, heart drumming like an oar hitting wood. Then, just as quickly, it ends. Someone laughs. The tension snaps, replaced by awkward relief. The men return to their tasks, eyes averted, faces stiff. The captain wipes his hands on his cloak, breathing slow. That mattered because authority, once questioned, survives only by pretending nothing happened. You resume rowing, pretending to. That night, the mood shifts again, guilt this time, thick and sour. The man who started it offers ale around, his apology in liquid form. The others drink, cautious but hungry for normalcy. The laughter returns, forced but functional. That mattered because peace here is negotiated in sips. You raise your cup, not sure if you're toasting him or the illusion. Later, the captain stands by the bow, eyes fixed on the horizon. He looks older now, smaller, like the sea finally noticed him. You approach, but he doesn't turn. They need land soon, he says quietly, or they'll find it in each other's throats. That mattered because command is just fear with vocabulary. You nod and walk away. By morning, everyone's quieter, more obedient. The ship moves smoother, the oars synchronized again, but the rhythm feels mechanical, joyless. That mattered because order restored by fear isn't stability, it's paralysis. You row anyway, grateful for movement, even hollow movement. Days later, someone carves new runes into the mast, a circle broken in half. You don't ask what it means, no one does. That mattered because symbols replace speech when truth feels dangerous. You trace the shape with your finger, the groove sharp and fresh. When land finally appears, no one cheers. They just stare, waiting to see if it vanishes again. The captain smiles faintly, relief shaped like doubt. That mattered because victory feels unfamiliar after so much endurance. You breathe in deeply, salt mixing with disbelief, and realize you've survived the mutiny that never needed to happen. That night, you dream of stillness, no oars, no commands, no wind. Just water holding you gently, forgiving everything. That mattered because sometimes peace looks exactly like surrender. You wake before dawn, unsure which you prefer. When dawn comes, the coastline rises from the fog like a bruise. Jagged cliffs, grey and slick with mist, jut from the sea in shapes too sharp to feel welcoming. The men cheer weakly, their voices cracking after weeks of whispering. You stare at the rocks, black, wet, waiting, and feel your stomach tighten. That mattered because not every shore means safety. You grip the side of the boat, pretending excitement instead of suspicion. The surf roars louder the closer you row. White foam explodes against the cliffs, spraying cold needles across your face. Seabirds scream above, wheeling in frantic circles. Their cries sound less like song and more like warning. That mattered because nature doesn't lie, it just speaks in different languages. You keep rowing, pretending not to understand. The captain points toward a small inlet where the waves break gentler. You angle the ship that way, muscles trembling from exhaustion. The smell of wet earth mixes with rot, seaweed, dead fish, something older. It smells like the edge of the world that mattered because land, after too long at sea, feels foreign to the body. You touch the hilt of your knife, unsure why. When the hull scrapes sand for the first time, a sound like bone grinding fills the air. The ship shudders, stops, no one moves. For a heartbeat, the silence feels holy. Then someone laughs, a hoarse, broken sound. Men stumble onto the beach, falling to their knees, kissing the ground. That mattered because gratitude always arrives seconds before greed. You watch, still aboard, unsure whether to join them. The beach is narrow, the cliffs towering on both sides. Beyond them, only fog and forest. The trees move oddly, though there's no wind. The air smells damp and animal. You step onto the shore. The sand sucks at your boots like it wants you back. That mattered because Earth doesn't forget trespassers. You keep your eyes low, listening for something human. They build a small fire, more for proof than warmth. The smoke rises crooked, dissolving before it reaches the cliff's height. Someone laughs about ghosts stealing heat. No one disagrees. The flames flicker, painting faces in sickly orange. That mattered because light feels guilty in unfamiliar places. You sit closer anyway, craving its judgment. The men scatter, searching for food or something worth naming. You stay near the fire, watching the tide slide closer, whispering secrets you can almost translate. A shape drifts in the surf, maybe driftwood, maybe memory. It bumps the shore, hollow, echoing like a knock. That mattered because the sea doesn't say goodbye, it leaves reminders. You turn away, unwilling to read the message. By nightfall, the fog thickens again. The forest groans, branches shifting, distant thuds like footsteps. Someone swears he saw eyes in the dark, glinting low and red. The captain orders extra watch, though no one knows what to watch for. That mattered because fear needs a name before it feels useful. You whisper possibilities until your mouth tastes like metal. In the middle of the night, the fire dies. The cold bites instantly, wet and sharp. The men huddle together, listening. Something moves near the tree line, a faint rustle, then stillness. The sound repeats, closer. You grip your knife, heart thudding in your throat. That mattered because imagination is the sharpest predator. You breathe shallow, afraid to prove it wrong. A sudden scream splits the dark, one voice, then silence. The group freezes, eyes wide. The captain shouts a name that no one answers. You wait, listening for footsteps, for anything, nothing, just the ocean's steady applause. That mattered because disappearance is worse than death. It leaves room for stories. You clutch your knife tighter, not believing it'll help. By dawn, the missing man remains missing. His footprints end at the tree line, the sand smudged and damp. No blood, no sign, just absence. The captain calls it bad luck. The men call it sacrifice. You call it warning. That mattered because the land has already made its decision. You pack the ship before anyone suggests otherwise. When the oars dip back into the water, the sea feels different. Thicker, slower, relieved. The shore disappears behind fog again, like it never existed. That mattered because survival often means misremembering correctly. You don't look back, afraid the cliffs might still be watching. Back on the water, everything smells like smoke. The last fire you built clings to your clothes, your hair, your thoughts. The men row slower now, as if each pull erases a mistake. The sky burns pale orange, promising warmth it doesn't deliver. That mattered because sunlight at sea is cosmetic. You tilt your face toward it anyway, chasing illusion. The captain orders a torch lit for the night, a simple comfort, a fake hearth. The flame wobbles in the wind, desperate but persistent. The men gather near it like moths pretending to be philosophers. The fire crackles, loud against the water's hush. That mattered because even false warmth draws honest hearts. You reach your hands toward it, feeling more hope than heat. The air grows colder as darkness deepens. The torch burns lower, the wind stealing flame in small bites. Someone feeds it with bits of rope, laughing. Another mutters that it's bad luck to burn what holds you up. That mattered because superstition is just wisdom with stage fright. You nod, remembering how easily boats become coffins. A spark jumps, landing on a man's sleeve. He slaps it out, laughing again, though his eyes look wrong. Too bright, too wide. "Fire likes me," he says. No one replies. That mattered because madness always asks for confirmation. You smile thinly, unwilling to volunteer. Later, when most have fallen asleep, the torch sputters its last. The flame stretches high once, gasping, then dies. Smoke curls upward, white against black sky. The sudden dark feels personal, deliberate. That mattered because light leaves behind an echo louder than its presence. You stare into the smoke, seeing shapes that shouldn't exist. A faint glow appears at the ship's edge, not flame, but reflection. The water shines with flickers of orange, like fire beneath the surface. The men murmur, rubbing their eyes. The glow moves with the waves, slow, deliberate. That mattered because comfort sometimes imitates danger too well. You lean closer, watching light dance where it shouldn't. The sea warms slightly, enough to notice. Steam rises around the hull. The glow brightens, spreading outward like spilled lantern oil. Someone whispers Aegir's forge, half awe, half fear. The heat builds, sweat beading on your brow despite the cold air. That mattered because every miracle has a melting point. You pull your hand back before the water invites you in. Then without warning, it stops. The glow vanishes, the warmth drains, the sea cools to ice again. The air feels emptier for it. No one speaks. The silence stretches until it starts to ache. That mattered because disappointment burns colder than flame ever could. You exhale slowly, watching your breath fade faster than hope. One man mutters that the gods tease mortals for sport. Another says it's a test. The captain doesn't answer. He just stares into the black water, his reflection rippling like a confession. That mattered because leaders run out of lies before everyone else. You look away, pretending the stars have become suddenly fascinating. When dawn breaks, the torch remains, half burned, half frozen, its handle split. You pick it up, the wood cold and wet, smelling faintly of ash. It leaves soot on your fingers. That mattered because reminders weigh more than relics. You wipe your hand on your cloak, but the black smear refuses to fade. The sea looks calm again, golden under early light, pretending last night never happened. The men begin to row, shoulders stiff, eyes dull. The rhythm returns, soft, mechanical, obedient. That mattered because routine is the final religion. You follow the pattern, letting motion erase memory until the water looks peaceful again. It happens at twilight, when the air is soft and the sea almost tender. The horizon blushes gold, and someone gasps, pointing ahead. "Smoke," he says. "From chimneys." You squint, and there it is. A thin grey line rising from what looks like land, trees, rooftops, maybe even people moving. The smell of wood fire drifts faintly through the salt. That mattered because longing teaches the nose to lie. You inhale, eyes burning, from something other than wind. The men cheer, weak but sincere. One even cries. You laugh, half in relief, half in disbelief. The sea feels still, obedient, as if guiding you home. "We're close," the captain says, voice trembling. No one doubts him. That mattered because exhaustion makes faith contagious. You row faster, muscles waking for the first time in days. As you approach, details sharpen, shadows that look like huts, flashes of light that might be windows. You can almost hear distant dogs barking. Someone starts humming an old tune, one that smells like home. The air feels warmer, sweet. That mattered because nostalgia has perfect weather. You hum along, afraid silence might break the spell. But the closer you get, the stranger it feels. The smoke doesn't move right. It swirls backward, dissolving into the sky. The huts shimmer like reflections on water. The barking fades into waves slapping wood. Someone curses softly. That mattered because reality at sea often arrives late and unwanted. You stop rowing, heart thudding against ribs that suddenly remember hunger. The vision wavers once, twice, then breaks. The village ripples, collapses, becomes ocean again, flat, silver, endless. The smoke becomes cloud, the sound becomes wind. No one speaks, the silence presses down, heavy as guilt. That mattered because hope, when it dies, doesn't scream, it sighs. You stare at the spot until your eyes ache, as if memory might reassemble it. One man laughs, a sharp, cracked sound that borders on sobbing. Another slams his fist into the deck. The captain just sits, face blank, mouth open like someone forgetting how to breathe. That mattered because disbelief wears many faces, all ugly. You look away, ashamed to see your own reflection in theirs. The air feels colder now, sharper. The mirage's warmth drains from the sky, leaving only grey. The waves slap harder, as if mocking. A gull circles overhead, its cry cruelly alive. At least someone's home, someone mutters. That mattered because envy, even of birds, still counts as faith. You tilt your head back, following the gull until it disappears into fog. By night, the men are quiet again. No chants, no songs, no plans. Only the sound of oars dipping, lifting, dripping. The rhythm feels hollow, mechanical. You imagine what you saw still exists somewhere, real for someone else. That mattered because believing in other people's hope hurts less. You close your eyes, rowing by memory alone. Later, you dream of that coastline, smoke curling straight, doors open, faces smiling. But when you walk closer, the people turn transparent, their eyes empty, their mouths whispering waves. You wake, gasping. your throat tasting of salt and ash. That mattered because imagination doesn't know when to stop helping. You spit overboard as if to purge it. By morning, fog hides everything again. The sea stretches endless and merciless. No one mentions what they saw. No one needs to. It lingers in the air like humidity, thick and invisible. That mattered because shared delusion bonds stronger than truth. You row quietly, carrying ghosts of roofs and fires in your chest. The captain finally speaks after hours of silence. "Next time," he says softly, "we won't stop rowing until it's real." No one answers, but everyone rows faster. That mattered because denial is humanity's favorite motor. You match their pace, salt drying on your cheeks like the remnants of a miracle. By now, the ship has a personality. You feel it in the way it sighs when the wind shifts, the way the boards creak like old bones telling stories. The mast groans at night, a deep, tired voice that sounds almost human. Someone jokes that the ship's keeping score of storms survived, of men lost. That mattered because superstition feels like logic when the evidence creaks underfoot. You pat the wood gently, hoping it remembers kindness too. The deck is slick with salt and memory. Every knot in the wood seems to hold a whisper, snippets of laughter, prayers, curses. You catch yourself listening, head tilted, as if the ship might speak if you're polite enough. That mattered because solitude rewires the senses. You find comfort in the illusion of conversation. At the bow, someone has carved names into the wood. Friends, lovers, gods, all fading into illegibility. The letters overlap, desperate for permanence. You trace one name you can almost read. The grooves are deep, rough, angry. That mattered because writing at sea is rebellion against forgetting. You whisper the name once, though you're not sure whose it is. When the wind picks up, the sail snaps like laughter, loud, mocking, alive. The ship tilts slightly, catching rhythm, guiding the oars with familiarity. It feels eager, purposeful, almost impatient. The men notice too. "She's leading herself," one mutters. That mattered because control is mostly pretend. You grip your oar tighter, pretending to help. At night, the hull groans more than usual. The sound vibrates through your spine, rhythmic and slow, like breathing. You lie still, eyes open, listening. The wood expands and contracts, like lungs. That mattered because sentience doesn't need proof, just attention. You whisper, "Good night," into the dark, feeling foolish and comforted at once. A few days later, the rudder breaks. The ship spins, uncontrolled, until the men lash it with rope. The captain curses, exhausted, but the ship steadies itself before the repair is finished. "See?" someone says. She knows. No one laughs. That mattered because coincidence, repeated, becomes theology. You nod solemnly, touching the rail as if thanking a teacher. The sea remains calm for days, too calm. The men grow restless, suspicious. "She's steering us somewhere," one whispers. "Not back." The captain orders silence, but the rumor sticks. That mattered because trust at sea leaks faster than tar. You glance at the horizon and swear it looks slightly closer every hour. At sunset, the light turns red, washing everything in blood. The ship creaks louder, almost groaning. The men stop rowing, staring at the wood as if expecting instruction. The sound shifts, deep, resonant, unmistakably deliberate. A knock, then another. That mattered because when wood speaks, no one argues. You freeze, heartbeat matching the rhythm. The knocking stops. The air feels thick, expectant. Someone whispers a prayer, someone else whispers, "Thank you." The captain glares at both. That mattered because authority hates competition. You close your eyes, feeling the deck pulse faintly beneath you, alive in all the wrong ways. That night, the wind dies. The sea mirrors the stars perfectly, motionless. You swear you can feel the ship dreaming beneath you, wood expanding, ropes stretching like tendons. You fall asleep listening to its heartbeat. That mattered because peace, after fear, feels suspiciously divine. You drift off, wondering if you've become a passenger or an offering. By morning, the ship moves again, but no one's rowing. The oars dip and rise in unison, guided by nothing visible. The men stare, frozen, afraid to interfere. You sit perfectly still, watching the sea glide by without effort. That mattered because surrender sometimes feels suspiciously efficient. You close your eyes, whispering to the wood, "Take us home," though you're not sure where that is anymore. Dawn arrives with color for the first time in weeks. Lavender bleeding into rose, clouds glowing gold around their edges. It should feel like mercy, but it doesn't. The sea is too calm, the air too sweet. The men blink into the light, squinting as if they've forgotten how to see. One whispers, "They're watching." No one asks who. That mattered because beauty here always hides a blade. You pull your cloak closer, chilled despite the warmth. The sky deepens to red as the sun climbs higher, red like wounds, red like stories about endings. The captain stares at it, jaw tight, eyes wet. "The gods return," he says, almost gently. The crew stirs, murmuring half prayers, half threats. Someone raises his hand to the sky. Nothing answers. That mattered because silence always wins eventually. You keep your head down, afraid to look faithful in public. The wind changes, hot, dry, carrying a faint scent of smoke. The horizon flickers, shimmering shapes rising from the waves, tall, thin figures of light, too distant to identify. The men drop their oars. "Valhalla," one breathes. They've come. You follow their gaze, your heart betraying reason for just a moment. That mattered because hope doesn't need proof, only spectacle. You stare until the shapes blur into glare. A voice rolls over the water, not loud, not human, but enormous. It vibrates through your ribs, through the wood, through the sea itself. The words are unrecognizable, but the meaning feels ancient, tired, disappointed. Some men fall to their knees. One laughs like a man drunk on relief. That mattered because even gods, when finally heard, sound nothing like we imagined. You cover your ears, too late. The figures fade as suddenly as they came. The air cools, the light dimming, and the sea returns to its indifferent blue. The ship creaks, recovering from reverence. The men look at each other, unsure if they've been blessed or mocked. They spoke, one insists. They promised. Another spits overboard. They always promise. That mattered because religion and resentment grow from the same soil. You stare at the horizon, wishing for either storm or sleep. By nightfall, the air feels heavy again, thick with salt and silence. The men whisper prayers into their palms, pressing them to the deck as offerings. You follow suit, not because you believe, but because disobedience feels louder than devotion. That mattered because participation passes for peace. You press your hand flat and feel the ship's pulse answering. The captain drinks more than usual, staring into the water. Maybe they forgot us, he mutters. Maybe this is the test. His voice cracks on the last word. You want to answer, to comfort him, but there's nothing left to say. That mattered because leadership is just a public form of loneliness. You nod instead, pretending agreement feels like faith. A storm brews that night without wind. The sea glows faintly beneath the surface, soft and wrong. The light swirls in slow circles, as if stirred by something deep below. The men back away, muttering names of gods like broken passwords. The glow intensifies, then fades, leaving darkness behind. That mattered because every revelation ends the same way, quietly. You exhale, not realizing you'd been holding your breath. When morning comes, the world feels lighter, emptied. No one mentions the gods again. The captain tosses his hammer pendant into the sea. It sinks instantly. No splash, no ripple. Let them row for a change, he says. That mattered because humor survives longer than holiness. You laugh quietly, the sound brittle and real. The day drags on, uneventful, peaceful almost. The men sing again, old chants about home, about warmth, about things that never happened. The melody rises and falls like waves, imperfect but alive. That mattered because music is the only miracle that keeps its promises. You join in softly, the tune familiar even if the words are gone. By sunset, the sea glows red again, but gentler this time. You stare at it without fear, thinking maybe the gods did come just to watch you endure. That mattered because survival is its own worship. You close your eyes, the wind cool against your face, and let gratitude sound like exhaustion. When night falls, you dream of giants sleeping under the ocean, their breath stirring tides, their dreams shaping storms. One opens an eye grey, endless, patient, and whispers, "Keep rowing." That mattered because sometimes divinity sounds exactly like your own mind refusing to stop. It happens without ceremony. One morning, the smell changes, the air softer, thicker with earth and pine. The men notice first, sitting upright like hounds catching scent. "Land," someone says, calm, certain. No one cheers this time. They just nod, quietly acknowledging the possibility of endings. That mattered because hope grows quieter after it's been used too often. You breathe in deeply, tasting dirt in the wind for the first time in months. The coastline rises slowly, green and brown under a pale sun. Trees like spears, rocks like fortresses. You watch it grow larger, realer, until you can see birds perched on branches, waves breaking on actual sand. The men whisper names of places they once knew, as if one might fit. That mattered because arrival doesn't need geography, it just needs witness. You smile, too tired to doubt. As the ship grinds against the shore, the sound feels unfamiliar. Wood kissing earth, a noise of reunion. The men step off one by one, cautious, reverent. The ground feels soft, almost fragile beneath your boots. You kneel, fingers sinking into damp soil, and laugh without humor. That mattered because stability feels unnatural after too much motion. You breathe in the smell of moss and disbelief. They drag the ship higher onto the beach, its dragon head glinting in the sun. The hull creaks, grateful or dying. You can't tell. Someone starts gathering wood for a fire. Another falls to his knees and weeps. The captain just stands, looking inland, face unreadable. That mattered because some victories are too ambiguous to celebrate. You stand beside him, equally unsure. The forest beyond the beach hums softly, wind in branches, birds calling, unseen things shifting. It should sound alive, but it sounds suspicious instead. You take a step forward, every instinct protesting. That mattered because home, after long absence, feels like trespass. You stop just short of the tree line. The fire catches quickly, smoke rising straight into the blue sky. The smell is divine, clean, dry, human. The men sit around it, eating the last of their rations like it's feast. Someone sings an old hymn off-key, voice cracking on every note. That mattered because imperfection finally sounds beautiful again. You close your eyes, letting warmth replace memory. At dusk, the captain says quietly, "We'll stay the night. Leave at dawn." No one argues. They lie down in the sand, bodies curled like punctuation marks ending a long, impossible sentence. That mattered because exhaustion writes better prayers than words. You lie beside them, feeling the ground hum faintly under your spine. The stars emerge, softer now, familiar again. The sound of waves against shore feels maternal, rhythmic, forgiving. You trace constellations with your finger, whispering names wrong on purpose. That mattered because ownership begins with mispronunciation. You smile, thinking of nothing for the first time in months. When you wake at dawn, mist drifts low across the trees. The fire has died, leaving only grey ash. The ship sits quiet, heavy, its hull coated in dew. The captain stands at the water's edge, staring west again. "We could stay," someone says, "or we could go." The captain doesn't answer. That mattered because every ending is just a vote with no majority. You look inland, then back to sea, unsure which feels more like exile. The tide creeps closer, gentle and persuasive. The ship rocks slightly, eager to move. You help push it free, wood scraping sand like an old sigh. The men climb aboard without speaking. The shore recedes behind you, fading into mist. That mattered because leaving twice is easier than trusting once. You row, heartbeat, sinking with the sound of waves, forgiving everything. By sunset, the coastline is gone. Only horizon again, golden, infinite, patient. You exhale, tasting both salt and relief. That mattered because survival doesn't mean return, it means continuing. You close your eyes, the world swaying gently beneath you, and let the sea claim your rhythm one last time. The night is warmer than it should be. The ocean moves like silk beneath the ship, folding and unfolding with the rhythm of sleep. The stars look closer now, lower, as if they've drifted down to listen. Every sound, creak, sigh, whisper, blends into one slow pulse. That mattered because silence, when earned, feels like applause. You lean against the wood and let it hold you the way gravity used to. The men barely speak anymore. Words have become unnecessary, replaced by glances and breath. The oars dip lazily, more habit than purpose. The horizon glows faintly blue, unbothered by time. That mattered because after a while, direction becomes optional. You close your eyes, letting motion choose for you. The air smells cleaner tonight, brine and nothing else. No rot, no smoke, no gods, just sea. You breathe it in like a cure. The salt burns slightly, reminding you you're still alive. That mattered because healing never feels gentle. You smile, remembering that pain was always part of the ritual. You notice the ship breathing again. The hull expands with each wave, sighing on the exhale. Sounds like comfort, or maybe resignation. Both feel right. That mattered because meaning changes shape when you stop fighting it. You rest your hand on the wood, thanking it for outliving everything that tried to kill you. Above you, a gull glides silently, wings stretched wide, unmoving. It circles once, twice, then vanishes into the moonlight. You imagine it was sent by the gods, or by memory, or by something less poetic and more kind. That mattered because closure doesn't need mythology, just timing. You whisper goodbye anyway. The ocean glows faintly under the moon, blue fire drifting in lazy swirls. It looks alive again, but softer now, no longer hungry. The men watch in silence, eyes half-lidded, faces peaceful for the first time. That mattered because fear eventually runs out of energy. You breathe in rhythm with the waves, the world smaller and simpler by the second. You think about the storms, the hunger, the gods, and realize none of it feels real anymore. The memories drift like debris, important once, harmless now. That mattered because distance always feels like forgiveness. You laugh quietly, a sound that doesn't echo. The ship rocks gently, like a cradle for grown men pretending not to dream. The sea hums low, steady, endless. It feels like being read to by eternity. That mattered because endings are just lullabies that learned patience. You pull your cloak tighter and let your body remember rest. Far ahead, a faint glow shimmers on the horizon. Not sunrise, not fire, just light with no intention. The captain stares at it but doesn't command. He just smiles faintly, as if he recognizes it. That mattered because not every mystery needs chasing. You close your eyes, content to never arrive. The stars drift lower still, reflecting perfectly on the water. Sky and sea become one long mirror, and the ship floats between them like punctuation in an infinite sentence. That mattered because peace often looks like repetition. You breathe slow, steady, matching the universe's exhale. You realize the sea has stopped rocking altogether. The water holds you still, as if afraid to wake you. The men sleep upright, mouths open, faces slack and gentle. That mattered because safety rarely announces itself. You smile softly, eyes heavy, heart lighter than salt. You exhale once, long and deliberate. The world exhales with you. That mattered because maybe after all this time, the sea was only trying to learn how to rest. When sleep comes, it feels like mist, cool, slow, patient. You drift between thought and dream, each blending into the other without apology. The ocean's hum becomes a voice, low and kind, whispering in no language you know. That mattered because comprehension ruins comfort. You let it speak through rhythm instead of meaning. You see home, but not the one you left. The houses are smaller, the faces softer, no one rushes. The air smells of rain and bread, impossible and perfect. That mattered because dreams fix what memory forgets. You walk through it barefoot, leaving no prints. The ship appears beside you, floating through the dream as if invited. Its wood gleams gold, polished and new. The men sit upright, eyes closed, smiling faintly. Their chests rise and fall in rhythm with the tide that isn't there. That mattered because peace doesn't erase, it translates. You nod to them, not wanting to interrupt. Odin stands on the shore, old and tired, one eye closed, the other full of moonlight. He doesn't speak, just raises his hand in something between greeting and apology. You bow your head. That mattered because forgiveness travels faster than prayer. You smile as he fades back into fog. You walk until the sea ends, not abruptly, just softly, like breath finishing. Beyond it lies a field of tall grass, shimmering silver under the moon. The sound of the waves becomes wind. That mattered because transformation, at its best, feels inevitable. You lie down in the grass, eyes half open, watching stars blink like embers. The air tastes clean again. No salt, no blood, no memory, just air. You exhale slowly, the sound blending with the rustle of grass. The ship drifts somewhere far behind, its oars still moving in rhythm. That mattered because eternity prefers continuity. You close your eyes and let both worlds overlap. The gull returns, circling once above you, its cry distant and familiar. It lands nearby, pecking the ground as if testing the dream's texture. You laugh softly. That mattered because proof never needed grandeur. You reach out, and it doesn't fly away. In the distance, you hear voices, your crew, laughing again. The sound slow and lazy, like it's being carried by warm wind. They sound happy, or something close enough. That mattered because joy doesn't need witnesses to count. You let the sound carry you deeper into rest. The stars fade one by one, not extinguished but absorbed. The sky lightens, pale and endless. You feel your body grow lighter too, every heartbeat stretching, thinning, vanishing. That mattered because endings and beginnings share the same frequency. You let it hum through you until even the silence feels full. You dream of the sea one last time, flat, silver, kind. The ship drifts empty, but not lonely. A single gull rides the mast, facing the wind. The waves move slow, predictable, eternal. That mattered because repetition is how the universe keeps promises. You smile, eyes closed, the dream erasing itself behind you. And as the last ripple fades into quiet, you understand. The ocean was never cruel. It was only honest. The night feels stretched thin, like fabric over infinity. The wind has forgotten its duties, and the sea hums a tone too low for hearing, only felt. Every sound, the faint crack of wood, the whisper of water against hull, moves in rhythm, a single thought stretched across miles. That mattered because silence here isn't absence, it's precision. You rest your head against the planks and realize the ship has been singing all along, just too slowly for impatient ears. You breathe deeper than before, and the air answers. It feels alive, almost sentient, curling into your lungs as if trying to remember what warmth was. The stars above flicker in perfect time with the ocean's pulse. A dialogue without translation. That mattered because communication never required words, only patience. You exhale, letting your breath join the rhythm that existed long before your body learned to keep time. The men sleep, but not deeply. Their breathing syncs with the sea's sway, as if the ship itself is inhaling through them. Each exhale escapes as mist, soft ribbons dissolving into the night. You watch one fade near your hand, half expecting it to form a word. That mattered because dreams often use other people as translators. You whisper goodnight to no one in particular. Somewhere below deck, Something knocks, a small, deliberate sound, neither warning nor accident. You don't flinch. Instead, you count the space between the echoes, measuring calm by intervals. That mattered because peace, unlike danger, always keeps its schedule. The rhythm feels ancient, reliable, like an oar hitting water in slow motion. You nod once, acknowledging the invisible musician. The air grows colder, not cruelly, just enough to clarify your senses. You can smell the wood, the faint salt, the iron tang of nails that hold the world together. The scent grounds you in a body that's slowly forgetting weight. That mattered because awareness fades last, not first. You hold on to the smell as proof of continuation, not survival. A gull cries somewhere far above, and the sound bends, distorted by distance. It echoes once, then folds into the hum of the sea. You imagine the birds circling endlessly, unable to tell sky from reflection. That mattered because direction loses relevance in perfection. You envy its confusion. It must feel like peace. The stars seem closer now. Some shimmer, others blink out entirely, like candles deciding their usefulness is over. You count them half-heartedly, losing track before reaching 10. That mattered because quantifying infinity always ends in laughter. You smile softly, realizing you haven't heard your own voice in hours and don't miss it. You dip your fingers into the water. It's warmer than air, smoother than memory. The ripples spread outward but never return, vanishing before forming rings. That mattered because closure, at this scale, doesn't exist. You leave your hand there longer, letting the sea memorize your pulse. The ship drifts slower, as though reluctant to disturb the moment. The men still sleep, the stars hold their breath, and even time pauses politely at the threshold of understanding. That mattered because revelation demands silence. You close your eyes, half expecting to wake up in another life. You feel something shift, not outside, but within. A sense of distance widening between thought and body, like rope slackening after decades of tension. The release hurts gently, the way forgiveness does. That mattered because rest always borrows pain's vocabulary. You let it finish the sentence for you. When you open your eyes, the world hasn't changed, but your perception has softened at the edges. The horizon blurs, sounds melt, everything fits. That mattered because perfection isn't achievement, it's surrender. You let your head rest back and finally stop anticipating the next wave. Somewhere between heartbeat and horizon, the silence begins speaking again. Not in words, but in rhythm, the purest language there is. It says nothing new, only repeats what was always true. You were never separate from the sea. That mattered because the story was circular all along. You exhale, smiling at how long it took to realize that. You wake without memory of sleeping. The ship still moves, but now it feels more like breathing than motion. Every plank seems lighter, every sound slower. You stretch your fingers and watch them drift through air that feels thicker than before, almost fluid. That mattered because the body forgets gravity last. You smile at how gentle everything feels, like the world has learned restraint. The air smells clean, no salt, no decay, just cool simplicity. It reminds you of early mornings you've never lived. You inhale again, hoping to taste memory, but there's only freshness. That mattered because cleansing isn't correction, it's replacement. You rest your hands on your chest, feeling your heart beat slower, quieter, certain. The captain sits nearby, cross-legged, eyes half open. His face looks carved from peace itself, weathered, still, luminous. He doesn't speak, doesn't need to. The absence of command feels better than any order he's ever given. That mattered because authority dissolves when understanding begins. You nod once, and he returns it without movement. The sea reflects perfectly now, mirror flat. For a second, it's impossible to tell where sky ends. You lean over the edge, expecting to see your reflection, but the surface shows only stars. That mattered because the universe edits distractions. You realize your absence looks beautiful. Your body feels unfamiliar, light, almost porous. Each inhale fills you with something easier than air, and each exhale gives it back willingly. The balance feels right, mathematical. That mattered because equilibrium, once earned, feels divine. You sigh, not from tiredness, but satisfaction with completion. The men wake one by one, but no one rises. They stay lying down, eyes open, smiling faintly at nothing. The rhythm of their breathing aligns with the tide. It sounds like chanting from a temple too far to locate. That mattered because harmony is contagious when exhaustion leaves room for it. You close your eyes again, listening instead of watching. A warm breeze drifts across the deck, carrying a faint scent. Something floral, impossible this far from land. It brushes your face, softer than touch. You imagine it's coming from somewhere beneath the waves. That mattered because beauty doesn't owe explanation. You inhale and let the perfume change your dreams. The ship creaks once, softly, like old leather relaxing. The sound makes you laugh, though quietly. It feels like an inside joke between you and eternity. That mattered because humor survives longer than fear. You whisper, "You've done enough," and the ship seems to understand. Somewhere in the distance, thunder murmurs, not threat, not storm, just acknowledgement. The sound rolls gently, almost fondly. The clouds ahead glow faintly from within. That mattered because even endings need witnesses. You tilt your head back, eyes closed, and let the sound pass through you like memory. You think of every weight that once defined you. Hunger, hope, direction, identity, none remain. The air holds you up now, the sea forgives the rest. That mattered because loss is just redistribution. You smile lighter than thought. When the stars dim, dawn doesn't arrive. It emerges like paint thinning under water. The colors are muted, pale gold fading into pearl. You can't tell if the world is beginning or retiring. That mattered because the difference no longer matters. You close your eyes, choosing both. And as your body drifts further from density, you realize the journey wasn't about distance at all. It was about subtraction. Every storm, hunger, and silence stripped you closer to truth. That mattered because arrival isn't discovery, it's absence perfected. You exhale once more, and the sea exhales with you. The sea no longer rolls, it breathes. You wake to a silver horizon suspended between two identical skies. Up and down have lost their argument. The air glows softly, pale as candle smoke. You blink, and for a moment, the world seems frozen mid-thought. That mattered because motion was only a habit. You rest your palm on the deck and feel no tremor beneath it, as if the sea itself is holding its breath for you. The captain still sits where you left him, face turned toward eternity. His eyes look open, though you're unsure if he's awake. Around him, the men move slowly, careful not to disturb the quiet. Their bodies look weightless, suspended in acceptance. That mattered because reverence is heavier when unspoken. You whisper his name, and it dissolves before reaching him. The air carries warmth now, but not from sunlight. It radiates from the water itself. A soft, steady exhale. You close your eyes and lean over the rail, letting your skin feel the glow. It's neither heat nor light, but something more honest. That mattered because sensation outlives meaning. You stay like that, letting your body memorize serenity. In the distance, a faint shimmer breaks the horizon like glass catching dawn. It doesn't grow larger, only brighter. You stare until your eyes water, the line between reflection and vision blurring. That mattered because patience demands blindness first. You smile at the glow, feeling it hum through your ribs. A bird flies through it, small, dark, precise. For a moment, the glow folds around its wings, haloing it in gold. Then both vanish. The air feels softer afterward, as if relieved of effort. That mattered because beauty never lingers longer than necessary. You whisper thank you, unsure who deserves it. The ship drifts closer, though you never feel it move. The horizon widens, swallowing the sky's edge. It feels less like travel and more like translation, your body learning a new grammar of stillness. That mattered because movement, properly slowed, becomes comprehension. You breathe with it, sentence by sentence. The sea reflects clouds that don't exist above. They shift, reshape, disappear. You wonder if they're memories, echoes of storms long survived. The thought comforts you more than truth could. That mattered because recollection is the gentlest illusion. You close your eyes and see them clearer. The air begins to hum again, low and resonant. It's not sound, but vibration, a language without grammar. It says nothing, yet explains everything. The men sense it too, their breathing sinking unconsciously. That mattered because harmony never asks permission. You join the unspoken choir, humming softly into the air until you forget who started it. Time stretches, the sky brightens. The horizon now glows like a soft silver scar across creation, equal parts boundary and invitation. You think it looks kind. That mattered because peace wears gentleness better than victory. You bow your head to it, instinctively, as though greeting a familiar friend. The glow deepens, turning from silver to white. You feel your heartbeat slow, your breath steady. The ship stops making sound entirely. The world hangs in balance, unfinished but perfect. That mattered because eternity is just the pause between breaths. You hold yours to match. Somewhere behind you, someone whispers, "We made it." The words are too quiet to disturb the air. You don't turn. The statement doesn't need agreement. That mattered because confirmation cheapens faith. You nod once, eyes on the light. When it reaches the ship, the horizon doesn't end, it opens. The glow spills across the deck, weightless and infinite, erasing every shadow. The men dissolve into it, slow and peaceful. You follow, eyes open, smiling. That mattered because the destination was never elsewhere. It was always the quiet itself. You feel the change before you see it. The air grows weightless, the sound vanishes, and suddenly gravity feels polite, more suggestion than rule. The ship lifts slightly, no longer floating on water, but within it. The ocean and sky blend seamlessly into one pale, infinite color. That mattered because separation was always illusion. You reach out, and your hand meets nothing, yet feels everything. The men stand now, calm, upright, serene. Their faces glow faintly in the soft light, like reflections remembering their sources. They do not speak, and neither do you. There is nothing left to describe. That mattered because language ends where truth begins. You smile at their stillness, understanding it perfectly. Below you, the ship's shadow stretches downward endlessly. Or maybe upward. It no longer matters. The wood glows from within, faint blue veins pulsing through its grain. The ship itself feels alive, breathing alongside the stars. That mattered because everything becomes divine once it's forgiven. You rest your hand against the railing, whispering thanks in every language you've forgotten. A wind, if it can still be called that, passes through you rather than around. It hums softly, like low music vibrating your ribs. It carries no temperature, no direction, only resonance. That mattered because belonging is vibration, not location. You breathe in rhythm, dissolving your edges just enough to blend. The dragon head at the bow exhales mist, thin and white. The vapor rises, curling upward until it merges with clouds that aren't clouds anymore, just pale memory made visible. The mist forms vague figures, shifting between faces, shapes, laughter. That mattered because identity doesn't vanish, it diffuses. You let it happen without reaching for definition. The captain moves forward, slower than gravity, and places his hand on the dragon's snout. The glow brightens once, then softens again. He smiles faintly. Gratitude or goodbye, you can't tell. That mattered because closure isn't about ending. It's about stillness. You lower your head in the same unspoken prayer. The men begin to hum, almost unconsciously. The sound blends with the air, with the ship, with the sea that's no longer separate. Each note lingers too long, melting into the next. That mattered because repetition is mercy. You hum with them, voice low, eyes closed, body swaying in rhythm older than birth. The light grows brighter but never blinding. It fills cracks, warms shadows, wraps around faces gently, as if asking permission before touching. The glow moves through you without resistance, tracing veins, slowing heartbeat, smoothing thought. That mattered because illumination doesn't conquer, it invites. You let it finish what the storm began. All distinctions dissolve, the oars, the ropes, the breath between words, all melt into one vast rhythm of calm. Even time, stubborn as it is, loses track of itself. That mattered because duration is just the ego of movement. You laugh quietly, hearing it echoed everywhere. You open your eyes one last time and realize you're still on the ship, but it's no longer moving. It floats inside light that feels infinite yet intimate. You could stay here forever, or maybe you already have. That mattered because eternity only becomes visible once you stop demanding proof. You exhale softly, smiling without reason. The captain raises his eyes toward what used to be the sky. "It's enough," he says, voice thin as a sigh. The sea answers with one final ripple, spreading outward until it disappears. That mattered because completion is quieter than silence. You close your eyes, heart empty and full all at once. And for the first time since the voyage began, you feel no difference between body and sea, dream and memory, above or below. Just peace. That mattered because the ocean never changed. You did. You drift, eyes half open, breathing light instead of air. And finally, rest becomes indistinguishable from being. You don't remember when the hum stopped. Only that everything grew softer afterward. The ship, the men, even the stars seemed to exhale together, like the universe finally allowed itself a nap. The sea, now indistinguishable from sky, reflects nothing, because reflection requires separation. And separation no longer makes sense. That matters because peace, in its purest form, is just absence that learned how to comfort. You sit at the edge of the ship, or maybe at the edge of yourself. It's hard to tell anymore. Your feet hover above water that feels like memory, each ripple an echo of a place you've already forgiven. You look down and see light moving lazily beneath the surface, the same way thoughts do before sleep. You wonder if you're sinking or floating, then realize there's no difference left to measure. That matters because rest doesn't decide direction, it just accepts gravity as it is. The air smells like nothing, no salt, no smoke, not even time. You breathe it in and feel it settle between your ribs like warmth made tangible. The sound of your breath is the only rhythm left, a tide repeating the same sentence again and again. You made it. Not victory, not survival, just completion. That matters because enough is the rarest word the human heart ever learns. You think about the storms, the hunger, the hallucinations, the gods who forgot their names. They don't feel cruel now, just necessary. Each one sanded away a layer of noise, leaving only this smooth, wordless surface. The ocean wasn't punishing you, it was teaching you to match its tempo. That matters because wisdom often disguises itself as endurance. Somewhere far above, or maybe below, you hear laughter. It's soft, distant, the kind that doesn't need an audience. You imagine it belongs to the sea itself. Pleased with how quiet you've become, you smile, realizing you're laughing too. That matters because joy, once freed from reason, sounds identical to peace. The stars begin to fade again, not vanishing, but blending, returning to wherever light rests when not observed. The world turns from silver to pale blue, like dawn rehearsing from memory. You don't dread waking, but you don't crave it either. Both options feel kind. That matters because choice was always overrated. The ship hums one last time, a long, gentle chord that vibrates through the soles of your feet. The sound is familiar. Maybe your own heartbeat, maybe the ocean's, maybe both. It fades slowly, leaving only the echo of breath against stillness. The sea lies flat, the sky unbroken. That matters because endings that last are the ones that don't try too hard to finish. You close your eyes. The air presses softly against your face, the universe's quietest goodnight kiss. No gods watching, no stories left to tell, just the slow warmth of existence folding over itself. Sleep doesn't approach, it arrives like recognition. That matters because what comes gently tends to stay longer. You take one final breath, deep and calm, feeling it ripple through everything that's left of you. In that exhale, the sea forgives every storm. The sky nods. And somewhere beyond words, the world remembers what stillness sounds like. So rest now, traveler. The sea doesn't need your vigilance anymore. It remembers you kindly and will hold you quietly until morning.